You're listening to Saturday Morning Media. And now, back to our show. Here we go.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Grant Cast. My name is Grant Baciocco, and it is a pleasure to have you here following along for episode number 235 of the Grant Cast. I'm recording this on Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. You are probably hearing it much later. It's possible it's even the beginning of July, but that's the way it works here. Really trying to get back into that every 2 weeks schedule that we've missed for a couple weeks. So I'm recording a bunch of episodes in quick succession, and that's what's happening today. I wanted to talk today about Tower Records. Now, see, in the last episode I talked about becoming 50, and so now I'm 50, and now all I do is reminisce about the olden times and what used to happen in the olden days. And so I'm going to talk about Tower Records. I discovered Tower Records in high school, maybe junior year. I discovered Tower Records. And now where I lived in Burlingame, California, we had a Tower Records in San Mateo, which was just one town over. And my group of friends that I hung out with, Jeanette, who was the same grade level as I was, and Jason Roberts, who was one grade below us, we all hung out together, Dan Park, and none of us, we were not typical high school students in that we went out and drank, we went out and partied, we didn't do any of that stuff. We would go see films, listen to me. We would go see movies, we would hang out at each other's houses, our friend Nick as well. We would all just hang out together. We were there was this connection of being in the band. We were all in the high school band. So there was that sort of connection of us together. And I don't know necessarily the first time it happened, but I can honestly say that Tower Records, it became an institution. And if you're not familiar with Tower Records, it's a record store. It was a big chain. There was a huge one on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And we started knowing about Tower Records, of course, during the CD era. That's during the high school, when I was in high school. I think when I was in junior high school, we got our first CD player at the house. Very funny story always is that the first CDs that my mom bought when we got our CD player were Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and Bruce Hornsby and The Range, The Way It Is. I think there might have been one other one in there as well. So that was when I think I was just finishing up junior high school. So CDs became the thing. And it became a thing on the weekends, usually Friday night, maybe Saturday night. We would go to Tower Records. We would all go out to dinner. We would usually go to the Bayshore Diner, which was a diner in a hotel near the San Francisco airport. I wonder if the Bayshore Diner is still there. That could be whole other stories. We would go to the Bayshore Diner to get food, or we would go somewhere else and get food. Maybe we would go see a movie, but we would always wind up at Tower Records. And Tower Records was open till midnight, so way later than my curfew. But it was just this great place where, if your curfew was 11 and you got out at the movie at 9:30, you could still pop over to Tower Records. And it was just this great social thing. I just loved that Jeanette, who is a very good friend who I still talk to via Facebook this time, these days, it was like this fun thing where you could go to Tower Records, everyone would go in their different directions, and then you would all come back together and you would all show each other what you bought, if you bought a tape, if you bought a CD, if you found something really cool. I can remember several times finding something and then, hunting through the store looking for Jeanette or looking for Jason to show them. Jason loved jazz stuff. Jeanette just had great taste in music, still does to this day. Loved all forms of music. I remember one gift that I got from Jeanette that she probably bought at that Tower Records, was John Prine's album, The Missing Years, and I'd never heard of John Prine. And I wouldn't say I'm a ginormous John Prine fan, but I really liked this album. And I remember she got it for me for my birthday, and she was like, you got to listen to this. And I really liked that album. And even to this day, I still listen to some of the songs off of it. So, like Tower Records was this big deal. And literally every Friday night or every Saturday night, or at least once on the weekend, we would head over to Tower. Now, when I went to college and I moved away down to Long Beach, from the San Francisco Bay Area down to Long Beach, Tower Records was still like this huge part of my life. And I found out that there was a Tower Records in Seal Beach, which was the next town over from Long Beach. And I think I became aware at this time, I didn't know this before, but that whatever day new releases came out, I think they come out on Fridays now. So it must have been Tuesdays was when new releases came out. And every Tuesday afternoon, I would drive to this Target because this was kind of the internet was around and there was stuff like AOL, but it wasn't something where you could easily look up and go, oh, these albums are coming out this day. So you wouldn't really know what albums are coming out, but I would always check out the new releases, and just absolutely loved Tower Records. One high school story, I remember, you know what though? This might not be a high school story. This may be a visiting home during college story, because when I would visit home during college, and Jeanette and Jason, and we were all still up there, we would all still go out, and we would all wind up at Tower Records. And there was a Tower Records in Mountain View, California. And it was probably about a 25-minute drive from where we all lived. And we would go, and we would go down there, and we would see what different things were at the Mountain View Tower Records. And I remember that during that time, they used to have listening stations. And so it was like 6, maybe more CDs, and you put on the headphones and you could pick the CD number you want, and it would start playing that CD, and you could listen to the tracks. And that was the first time I heard The Refreshments, nowadays Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers. And I remember standing in that Tower Records in Mountain View, California, listening to that first Refreshments album and listening to like every track, and would listen to like about a minute and a half of every track. And then I go, wow, that's a great track. I'm skipping to the next one. Wow, that's a great track. Okay, I'm skipping to the next one. Wow, that's a great track. And then the whole album. And I was like, okay, this album, I got to buy this album. This album is mine. And yeah, it's just a lot of memories of, of Tower Records. And I think when there was a point where during, I think I've talked about this before on the show, where during college I worked at Disneyland, and then I was unceremoniously, I left Disneyland. And so when I moved back home after college, I wanted to get a job, and I just thought, I want to work in a record store, but I'm not cool enough to work at Tower Records. I would love to work at Tower Records, but I'm not cool enough to work there. So I got a job at Camelot Music, which was a mall record store, totally uncool. But what the guy who hired me, he loved two things. He loved that I had worked at Disneyland, and he thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And then he loved how much I knew about music. Now, I don't know. Even then, I didn't know a lot about music, but I just was in Tower Records enough to know, like, this band. Oh, I saw that CD. That CD is in. Like, I remember one time in Tower Records, somebody came in and said, "Hi, do you have any music by Chanticleer?" And now I know nothing about Chanticleer other than that there is some sort of musical group named Chanticleer. And I said, yeah, it's right over here. I think it's classical music or something like that. And I took the person right over there and got him the CD and showed it to him. And then when I got back to the front desk, the manager was like, how did you know Chanticleer? And it was just because I had spent so much time in Tower Records that I knew all these bands. And I'm glad that record stores are kind of these days making a resurgence, but man, do I miss Tower Records. And I remember when Tower Records was CD long boxes. And then I remember when Tower Records there were no more long boxes. The CDs were just in those plastic. They were the same height as long boxes, but they were in those plastic anti-theft things. And it got to the point where a girl I was dating in college was like, you are obsessed with Tower Records because you go every week. Like, she just couldn't understand that I went every week. She went with me, but she just couldn't understand that, like, I thought this was a great place to go and just even hang out, spend an hour just looking through everything and seeing what's new, seeing what's old, seeing everything. And I joked that when I finally was old enough to own my own car and get a personalized license plate, my license plate was going to say 2, the number 2, TOWER, 2TOWER, because that's where I thought I would be going. Now, unfortunately, Tower Records is no more. I miss it. None of the other record stores the Virgin Megastore didn't really capture the magic of, because what I loved about Tower was there was just random things you could find. And sometimes, like, I remember one of the CDs that I bought at the Tower Records in San Mateo is this CD called The Talent Show. And it is a recording of a talent show that took place in like 1982 or something that they found these recordings of. And it was a talent show that took place in like a community center that was right next to a retirement home. So many of the acts are older folks who more than likely are no longer with us. But then there were kids from the community. And it's just the weird, and it's all real. It's not like a audio drama type thing, people improvising and making this up. This is all real, but it's one of the craziest things that I ever found on CD that I don't think you would never find that CD in Virgin Mega, whatever I don't even know what the main CD stores are right now. I guess Walmart and Target, but you would never find that CD in Target or in Walmart. They just wouldn't carry it because it's so unique and weird. Man, and I bought so many comedy CDs from Tower Records because they had a huge comedy music collection and they would get the new comedy CDs. And boy, oh boy, I mean, Tower Records, it just really was this important place. And I'm probably not doing it enough justice to tell you how important it was. But man, oh man, I wish right now I could go to Tower. Tell you that much. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Grantcast. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I certainly do appreciate it. We'll be back very soon with another new episode of the Grantcast, and I hope you will stay subscribed. I hope you will tune in, and I hope you are doing well. Goodbye, everybody. This episode of the Grantcast was edited by Steven Staver and was made possible by the Saturday Morning Media Patreon patrons who've gone to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up a pledge for as little as $1 a month. Patrons at the behind-the-scenes level and above get access to a video of the recording of this show, and a big shout-out to all of our patrons, and a special shout-out to our patron producers Eve Cunning, Kathy Crawford, Tony Urbano, Brandy, David Akers, Paul, Scott Armstrong, Vicky Sebring, Ricky Chavez, and Karina. If you would like to become a patron and receive episodes of the Grantcast before they are released, visit patreon.com/Saturday Morning Media and set up your monthly pledge today. And thank you for your support. This episode of the Grantcast is copyright 2024 Saturday Morning Media, Grant Baciocco, executive producer, all rights reserved. www.saturdaymorningmedia.com.
You've been listening to Saturday Morning Media. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.